This is Laura Duncan from CSMS. Today we're learning distributive property using negative numbers. So we call it hippity-hoppity distributive property, and this time we're going to use negatives. Look at number 1. On number 1 we are distributing a -3. Why? Because we cannot combine x and 6, so we must use the distributive property. So we distribute the -3 to the first term, -3 times x. That gives us -3x. Then -3 times 6 would be -18. So instead of writing plus -18, write -18. It is a -18, but this is how we'll write it. Go ahead and box your answer. Let's go on to number 2. This time we're distributing a -2 because it's multiplication and we cannot add these two numbers. They're not like terms. So we'll distribute -2 times 3r. That would be -6r. This is the biggest mistake 8th graders make. -2 times 8 is -16. So we'll just write it as -16. It makes it more simple. Box your answer and we'll go on to number 3. For number 3, you're distributing a -3. So we distribute -3 times 4 is -12u. Then -3 times 2 is -6, so write it as -6. Box your answer. Let's go on to number 4. Please pause the video here and try 4, 5, and 6 on your own. Let's review number 6 before we move on. Notice that when you have a -9 and you multiply it by a -7, a negative times a negative is a positive. So this will be positive or plus 63 depending on how you say it. Be aware of that as you move forward. Let's look closely at number 7. On number 7 we have a negative. This is also understood as a -1. We must distribute that negative to each term because it's saying the opposite of each term. So -1 times 2a is -2a. -1 times 3b is -3b or -3b. -1 times 5d is -5d. We've distributed the negative to each term. Now let's simplify each expression. Before we can simplify, we must distribute. So we'll first distribute the term. 3 times x is 3x, and then 3 times y is 3y. Then we have this 4. Notice that it's being multiplied. So I want you to circle the sign in front of the 4 so you'll be sure to know whether it's a negative or a positive that you're distributing. Positive 4 times 2x is plus 8x. Positive 4 times 3y is plus 12y. Now that we've distributed, we can simplify. What we're looking for is like terms. So the variable must be the same. Do you see any x's that are like this? We see this 8x. I want you to box the sign in front of it. That way you can see that it's 3x plus 8x. That would be 11x. Now let's look at another like term. We have our y's. Circle the sign in front of each term. This is a positive 3y plus 12y. That would be 15y, because if the signs are the same, you add and keep the signs. Now, can we simplify this any more? No, we cannot. there are no more like terms, so this is a simplified expression. For number 9, we are distributing first before we can simplify. So remember, in front of these terms, there are understood ones. The 7 is being multiplied. We will distribute it to each term. 7 times 1x is 7x. 7 times 1y is 7y. The next thing that we're distributing is a 3. Notice it is positive, very important. Positive 3 times 2x is plus 6x. Positive 3 times 4y is plus 12y. Now what? Well, we have to look for our like terms. So we see a 7x here. It's positive because look at in front of the 7x. This is a positive 6x. The signs are the same, so we add and keep the sign. That would be 13x. Let's look at the y's. We have some like terms that are y's. We have a positive 7y and a positive 12y. They are the same signs, so we simply add and keep the sign. That is as simple as it gets because there are no more like terms to combine. Looking at number 10, it's the same procedure but with negatives. Notice what we're distributing, a -5. So we'll distribute that -5 to each term because we're multiplying. -5 times c is -5c. -5 times d, we'll say that it's -5d. Now notice on here, I don't like this. It's a -3 that you are distributing. So you'll distribute the -3 and we'll write it as -6c. -3 times a positive 3d is -9d. Now we'll look for like terms. You can see where circling the sign in front will make our lives easier. We have a -5c and a -6c. The signs are the same, so we add. 5 plus 6 is 11. And we keep the sign, so it's -11c. Let's look at the next one. We do have some more like terms, and they are the d's. So we have -5d and -9d. We're combining those like terms. They are the same sign, so we add. That's 14d, and we keep the sign. Don't write plus minus 14d, just write minus 14d. Now that we have combined our like terms, this is simplified. Try number 11 on your own. Go ahead and pause the video here if you have not already done so. Do you agree with the answer? That is a simplified term. Let's go on to number 12. On number 12, we're still trying to simplify each expression, but this time there is only one number to distribute. I want you to be very careful. Notice what you're distributing, a positive 3. But don't forget the first term. Go ahead and bring the first term down so you don't forget about it. Now let's distribute that positive 3. Positive 3 times 2x is plus 6x. And positive 3 times -6, that would be a -18. But we're not done yet. We need to combine the like terms. These two terms are alike because they have the same variable. So that would be 12x minus 18. And that is simplified. Let's go on to number 13. On number 13, watch that negative. It's an understood -1, but we have to distribute that to each term within the parentheses. So negative 1 times x is negative x. You do not have to write the 1. It's understood. Negative 1 times 4 is negative 4. So just write minus 4. Now, are we going to distribute this negative to the 4? No, it's outside the parentheses. So we'll just bring down this 4, not forgetting it. Now we'll combine the like terms. The x does not have a like term, but we have these. The numbers are always like terms. So we have negative 4 plus 4. Well, those cancel out. So our final answer is negative x. Please pause the video here. Try number 14 and 15 on your own. Please check your answers, and the lesson is yours.